I was rooming with Seedorf at the time, which is probably one of the worst roommates you could have. We put his laptop and we'd watch Lion King and what have it.
You supported Liverpool growing up, then you signed for Celtic. You were a Celtic fan growing up. When you signed for LA, you were an LA fan.
Yeah, I don't know where that was coming from. I could envision myself and Torres playing together. In my head, I thought this could definitely work. To put that jersey on with the players that wore it before me, it was great. I certainly don't regret it. Would I like to stay longer? Absolutely.
We've all heard of the two Ronnies, the two Robbies today.
I think before we start, look, I know what you're like here. I think you've just seen a microphone there. So when you see a microphone, you normally start singing.
Yes, start singing. I need a few drinks first before we can do that. You don't mind it either. I think you're as bad as me.
You do think you're Ronan Keating, don't you?
I think Ronan Keating thinks he's me, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm just funny enough, obviously you are over here in Liverpool with the family. I've just been speaking to the wife and I said, any funny stories on Robbie? She went, just mentioned singing and he won't shut up about it.
Well, no,
I'm not sure that's funny, to be fair.
Well, listen, it's not definitely not funny, but we've definitely had a few nights out, and especially in Leeds. We used to have a few sing songs. But I think, as you know, you've been to Ireland many times yourself. My father was a singer, so all I ever known was growing up was going to the pubs on the Sunday with the families and just complete sing songs for the whole day. So you kind of almost you're brought up with it. My dad played the guitar, and he was the head singer as well. That's one thing I haven't done, which I regret, because he bought me a guitar when I was younger and I started to get bored of it and just wanted to play football. So, but that's definitely one regret. I would have loved to do is play the guitar or play some kind of instrument.
Is that a bit of a mutual fascination? When you meet rock stars or musicians, you as footballers, they'll speak to you about what's it like to score a goal. Are you speaking to them about what it's like to play in front of 100,000
I think it's always been known, hasn't it, for years that footballers want to be singers and the other way around. So because every time you meet rock stars, all they want to do is talk about football. I've seen them for years. They just and then you play in the charity games with them and you can see why they weren't football players.
Plays with them.
Yeah. And they say the same thing. Footballers are not singers.
Can't sing, yeah. The first thing we ask everybody that comes on, Rob, is, well, we are Liverpool, but what is your Liverpool?
Well, Liverpool for me, obviously, as you know, as a kid growing up in Dublin, it was huge. And my first memories, my brother was a Liverpool fan. My first memories of it was watching John Barnes just run down the wing and Ian Rush, getting on the end of his crosses and scoring goals. So that's always stays in my mind. Just them two. Linking up together, and then a good few years down the line, and watching Robbie score a hat-trick against Arsenal. So my memories from Liverpool is always around that time when I was about between 10 and 15. As I said, watching top players at the top of their game and watching their most famous games against Newcastle and Wavi and Rushy scoring goals against Everton. So that's my memory of Liverpool growing up.
How did you go from Crumlin United in Dublin to Wolves? How did that come about?
We had a scout called Eddie Corcoran, and later he actually been part of the Irish setup as well. So, as you know, at that time there was a lot more scouts in Ireland than there probably is now. To be honest with you, Wolves watching me. Actually, Liverpool. I could have signed for Liverpool, Wolves, and was it Nottingham Forest? Coming over Liverpool and trials and Wolves and bumping in. Coming to see you guys in the training ground, and yourself was there, Collymore, John Barnes. I remember the story about John Barnes and Collymore. Barnes, you were saying to him, show me your pay slip, and Collymore was half kind of doing it, and then eventually he panicked and he wouldn't do it. So just seeing that, them big players at the time was great. But I chose Wolves because I thought I'd have a better chance of getting a quick start at Wolves than I would at Liverpool, because yourself was obviously there and younger players coming through at the time. I didn't obviously know at this time was people like Michael Owen, so it probably would have been harder for me to get an opportunity to play for the first team as quickly as possible. So that's why I chose Wolves, and I thought it was a really good family club. And my mother actually said to me, don't just choose Liverpool because you support them. Make sure you pick the team that you feel is right for you, that's going to give you the best opportunity. And that was Wolves, and I was lucky enough at 17 years of age then to, get the opportunity to play in the first team. Literally 1 month after my birthday. So in that respect, I definitely made the right decision.
Right decision. So after that, so obviously then you go to Coventry,
Yeah.
which was a record fee for.
Yeah, for a teenage, yeah.
teenage,
Yes, yeah, 7 million. Yeah, Gordon Strachan. Actually, as you know, Gordon very well. He's got a good humour, and he rang me, and first thing he says to me, "It's Gordon Strachan here." He goes, "Do you want to be a millionaire?" That was his first thing he ever said to me. And he just started laughing on the phone, and then it was either Coventry or Aston Villa. Aston Villa wouldn't pay the extra 500,000. I think it was John Greggy was the manager. But I just felt comfortable with Gordon Strachan. He was good friends with Mark McGee, who was the manager at the time at Wolves. So I met him. I thought he was good, and great decision, because Gordon Strachan is one man. I mean, you wouldn't mess with him, but he gets the best out of players. And I just felt, from someone who came from the Championship and straight into the Premier League, which is, as we know, it takes time, but I hit the ground running, and we had a really good season. We had great players, and Gary McAllister, who helped me massively, and I think both of us, in terms of me helping him, and he says it to this day, him getting that chance to go to Liverpool, just the way we combined it together was very, very good, and the experience that he had, and then Hadji and Cheapo. So we had a really, really, really good team, and I think we finished maybe top 10 for Coventry. Was quite good.
You went at Coventry long, and then obviously Inter came. One day you're training with Dion Dublin. And
No, Dion wasn't there. He was actually before me, Dion.
All right. So one day you're training with Darren Huckabee.
He was gone. Gary McAllister.
So one day, Noel Whelan, you're training with.
Yeah, Snowy, yeah.
So one day you're training with Noel Whelan, and the next day you're training with Ronaldo and Recoba and Christian Vieri. I mean, that must have been such a surreal experience for a young lad to be going from Coventry to Inter.
Yeah, it was, because I mean, it was kind of a lot of rumours that they were watching me for a good few months, and then I said, Gordon Strachan put me in and said, "Listen, I don't want you to go." He says, "But you have to." He says, "The amount of money that the club is getting, and also for you as going forward for your career, massive club, and playing with these unbelievable
it doesn't
players."
sound like you needed much persuading there, don't you?
No. But I would have liked to stay maybe a couple of more years, but I come because we're building something. But as I said, you could never turn down an opportunity to go to Inter Milan, and as you said, training with them players. I mean, different level. Looking back, I was definitely too young to go in there at that stage. Sometimes things are out of your hands, but as you said, the players we had, strikers, was Ronaldo. He was injured the whole time, because that's when he was having bad problems with his knee. Christian Vieri, Hakan Suker, Recoba, Samorano. So it was really, it was top players. But something I definitely don't regret. I know I was only there a short time, but I learned so much about the culture and different ways of kind of living your life, just how they eat and stuff like that.
I mean, that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Sort of the culture, so the Premier League, everyone always talks about the Premier League being one of the greatest leagues in the world. So you've gone from the Premier League to play over in Serie A, which, we all remember growing up and how good that league was. What was the difference in terms of the standard of football?
It was just, the difference was more just how they kind of, how they ate together in the restaurant, and they'd have different, they'd eat the pasta first, and little small things like that we wouldn't do here. We just grab a food quickly and everyone's gone. Just little, you have a pasta, then you have your fish afterwards. Then they'd have a little glass of wine at lunchtime with the, with the food. Where if we had a glass of wine here, then you're cracking on, and you're out for the night then. So just in terms of that, and then you'd stay in the training ground. If we're training in the afternoon, or we had games in the evening, they already had the rooms in the training ground. I was rooming with Seedorf at the time, which is probably one of the worst roommates you could have, because he doesn't sleep, and he likes to watch animation movies. So with the two of us, the beds were kind of tight together and have a little gap, and we put a little chair in the middle, and we put his laptop, and we watch Lion King and what have you. But it was till 1-2 o'clock in the morning. I always like to go to bed about 12 o'clock. Because the game wasn't until the following evening, he could sleep for like 2-3 hours during the day, no problem, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was always too hyper to stick, so I was wide awake in the afternoon, and he's snoring his brains out. So
and you're in the bathroom singing singing Lion King songs.
So it was, in that respect, it was different, because as you said, you got your own room in the hotel, in the training ground, which obviously that time it wasn't even thought of. Now every every club has their own rooms now.
Give us an insight into your personality then, Rob, because you allude to it there, but I think you had 4 clubs by the age of 22. You'd left Ireland really as a baby, and all of this pressure of being, the most expensive teenager in the world at the time. How are you changing as a person with all of these big moves and the pressure that comes with it?
No, it didn't really bother me, to be honest with you. I mean, a lot of them are on my hands because Wolves, I needed to leave because I had to go and, playing in the top league in the world, in Premier League. As I said, they got a lot of money for me, so every player wants to go higher and higher. The Coventry thing, I had to kind of go because how much it was, and of course I wanted to go as well, to a massive club. And then leaving Inter to go to Leeds, I wasn't playing as much as I would like to. So things kind of happened. It wasn't like I wanted to go every time. I wanted to move to different clubs. It was not like that. A lot of it was certainly out of my hands. But it gave me great experience, because I think a lot of players in the UK and Ireland are frightened to go abroad. I think they don't like it. I think they fear. It's like, it's a joke from years ago. Even players from the north frightened to go to the south, which is only a few hours away. And I believe that way even with coaching as well now. I think players should go and experience different cultures and different experiences. And, in that short space of time, I learned a lot about myself, and also learned that I think it stood me in good stead going forward, later on in my career.
I'm just obviously interested in what you're saying there. So you obviously players going abroad, and I'm with you. I totally agree with you. But do you think a lot of players in the UK are blindsided by the fact that the Premier League is earmarked as probably one of the best leagues in the world? So do you think players look at it and go, well, why do we need to go anywhere else?
I get that, but I think certain players would maybe thrive going abroad as well. It doesn't mean that you're going to stay for 5, 6, 7 years. You could go abroad for a couple of years and get great experience. I give Tammy Abraham, for example. Yeah. Fair play to him. He's left Chelsea. He's gone to Rome. He's scoring goals now. He could come back from Roma now and probably play for one of the top teams there, because he's got great experience and he's understanding now the game and different ways of playing football. Listen, I can only speak on behalf of myself, but I think I've gained great experience and knowledge from just playing in these different countries.
What was it Rushy said? It's like playing in a foreign country. Next time for you, Dave. Yeah. See where he's coming from.
Yeah, he denies that, didn't he? Yeah.
I don't know whether you culturally understand how much of an impact you had on Robbie when you were playing together at Leeds, because he taught you to cook, didn't he?
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'm a little bit older than you, but I mean, I burn toast. I'm awful in the kitchen. I remember obviously being in your house and you cooking the tea, and it was simple. It was chicken with a pasta with a tomato sauce. I'm thinking, wow. You were like Gordon Ramsay before Gordon Ramsay was Gordon Ramsay.
No, but because when I was in Italy as well, I couldn't. And also, you have to understand, I lived on my own. I left Ireland at 15, went into digs, and by 18, I had my own house. So at the time, it wasn't really a big thing, like people going, to restaurants and get food, because at that time, if people saw you in a restaurant, or I lived in Wolverhampton and Telford, seeing you in a restaurant or a pub, if you like, to get some food, they think you're on a night out. Yeah. And it's like years ago, they used to ring up the club and say, I got seen Robbie Keane in a restaurant. All you're doing is going for dinner. So I learned I learned how to cook very quickly at 18 years of age. So, and then I went to Italy as well. So, and that was the same thing. So I was shocked that Robbie, his fine age, that he couldn't even cook a bit of pasta.
I was 27 at the time.
Did you take it on after that? Did you?
Not really, no. I mean, I'm to be fair, I'm not.
He just eats now.
Right, are we going there? Hey, he dies there, by the way.
You need to.
You're not wrong.
What are your memories of being together at Leeds? It was a great side to watch that from a neutral
we
perspective.
Honestly, I say it to this day. I mean, I've been very fortunate to be in unbelievable dressing rooms. But every time anybody asks me the question, the Air Leeds dressing room, I think was up there with the best. Honestly, we had real good characters. But everyone was together, wasn't it? There was no one really, there's no one of jealous of anybody. Everybody wanted each to do well. Of course you wanted to play that, but just the amount of the crack, as soon as you walk in the morning, just people just battering each other till we left. And we didn't want to leave the training ground, did we?
No, but it's because when you talk, I mean, you mentioned before about the culture in Italy, and I mean, the culture at Leeds, it was very, very good. Whereas you go in there and you try and create an environment where you don't want to leave the training ground, you want all the lads to be comfortable and happy and, you know, be as one. And I think we had that at Leeds, didn't we?
We had it. We had big, like, really funny characters. We had Gary Kelly, who was just, he was different class, Mr. Leeds. He was there for a long time, but just the way he was with the new players that came in. Obviously, I've been with the Irish team for a long time. And the people like David Batty, who's the most laid back guy in the world, nobody has a clue now where he is.
I was going to say, where is he now?
People say we need to find a way. We have a WhatsApp group, and we always say, "Where's David Batty? We need to find him."
Yeah, I have to do a book. Well, you know, remember that? Like, well, there's Where's Wally? Where's Batty? Yeah.
So there's really big different characters, but really funny characters. And then honestly, I had a great time. I think if we stayed together for another year or 2 years, because of obviously the financial problems, at least they had to sell quickly. With myself, I think Rio's the first ones to go. But it was a really good time, a really good part of my life, and even to this day now, still have really good friends in Robbie, and as I say, we have a WhatsApp group from that team. So it's now it was very, very good.
Still battering each other all these years on.
Well, you can see that.
Still exists.
Don't forget what we can do now. We can edit it so I can batter even more. But obviously after the Leeds, and I know it's obviously remiss, and you went to your Tottenham, and it's fair to say that Tottenham was probably the place where you enjoyed your finest years as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as I said, because I had a short, few years of kind of moving around, and Leeds was another one. Again, no one wanted to leave just because of the circumstances we had. And it's mad because when I played at White Hart Lane against Tottenham, for some reason I used to love the stadium, and I used to always love playing there. Always nice and compact, and the crowd was right on top of you. But as soon as I played the first game, I felt, I could be here for a long time. Then I had Glenn Hoddle, who wanted to play football and suited me in terms of how I wanted to play. And then I was playing with Teddy Sheringham, who I learned in that year. I learned so much off him. So yeah, I felt very, very comfortable. And then the team was progressing every year, and then changing different managers, and then people like Martin Yall come in and get into the Champions League and stuff like that. So it was a really good time in my career. And as I said, rightly so, that's probably the team that people would acknowledge me with, that being there for on and off 8 years.
When you're talking about, obviously you just mentioned a few players that you played with there. What type of player are you? Because I know what type of player you are from an outsider. Yeah. What type of player do you see yourself, and what player would you want the supporters to see you as?
I'd say I had different types, because when I played with the national team, I had to play as that kind of number 9, because he relied so much on me to score goals. Whereas at Tottenham, I would say I'm a kind of 9.5, if you like, because I used to like to come deep, and that's why I think the understanding with me and Berbatov was so good, because as soon as Berba liked to drop quite a lot as well, so but the manager liked Berba to play kind of more in the middle as much as he could, but being Berba, he liked to wander quite a lot. So we had to have this understanding where if he came short, I'd have to stay long, and vice versa. And I think that's what the defenders found it difficult to play against us. So yeah, I would say with Tottenham I could play as the 10, but with Ireland I was more like a number 9, playing it with big, because we weren't so good technically, as in keeping the ball and keeping possession, and we'd always play against teams mostly better than us. So we used to have to, a lot of times, have to go route 1. So playing with big Quinny or Cass or Kevin Doyle, people who are very, very good in the air. So I'd always have to get on their flick on. So it was kind of a little different role for me with the national team than it was with Tottenham, where I'd see myself more as a kind of a bit of a player, link-up player with Tottenham. But as I said, that's the understanding that me and Berbatov had. And that's with Teddy. I learned that from Teddy, from playing 1 year, because as a player, I was like full of energy. I always wanted to run and get on the ball. Sometimes Teddy said to me, sometimes just stand still, and you watch Teddy, he used to kind of almost like walk, and just drift into areas where you get on the ball. And he said that to me, and it stuck with me in my mind. And I think after that, having that 1 year with Teddy, the following year, then I started changing the game a little. Instead of running to the left back, trying to get the ball to the right back, like wasting energy basically, just playing in little pockets. And I found that more of a success in terms of getting on the ball and getting more touches of the ball by just standing still, because Teddy said, everybody else is running around.
It's funny with strikers. Sometimes the partner that we would presume as fans was your favourite is somebody different. Would Berbatov be the obvious favourite for you?
Yeah.
Yours was Collymore, wasn't it, Rob? You love playing with Collymore.
I think he'll give you the same answer here. I think any player in the history of the game will tell you their best partner is the one, certainly as a striker, is the one that you've scored your most goals with.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of Liverpool and you think of, as much as he was brilliant, King Kenny. Rushy was his partner, and Rushy will say him because of the amount of goals he scored. I mean, mine was Stan because of the amount of goals. No disrespect to Stan, but he probably wasn't the best player I've ever played with. I'm not having a go at him, but
whatever works.
Sometimes you have an understanding, don't you?
Of course, as a forward.
With someone and the great thing about me and Bevan, none of us, we weren't selfish between each other, So if he scored, I scored. If there was a tap in for him, we would set up. We played with players that would certainly look after themselves. But with him, me and him, we had this complete understanding that we were so happy for each other who scored, and the amount of goals we scored in the couple of years between us, as you said, rightly so, Robbie. Your best partnership is the one that you play better with and ultimately score a lot of goals.
Who were those players then that you played with as strikers that even if you won 5-0 and they didn't score, they'd still be fuming coming off at the end?
I think any striker. I mean, as much as you want your team to do well, and you want your team to win.
I mean, if anyone told you something different, they'd be completely lying. There's obviously different ways of people dealing with it. I know from other people, Van Nistelrooy, for example, he used to come in after the dressing room and if he didn't score, he wouldn't speak to anybody. Now, I don't think, I wasn't like that, and you weren't like that. Of course, you want to score goals, but you'd still be delighted for the players. But because you're a goal scorer, you don't wake up on a Saturday morning and looking forward not to score goals.
Yeah.
You want to score every time you play and you walk onto that pitch.
Your spell at Tottenham coincides with obviously your great goals and your great run of form, and that's when Liverpool came calling to any Liverpool fan. I think you were probably, in their eyes, probably the missing piece that maybe taking Liverpool to the next level. When
I obviously first came when they called me, I could envision myself and Torres playing together, and that was a partnership because he used to love running behind. He was good in the air, and then I could come and play and that to be that link. So in my head I thought this could definitely work, and there was definitely some moments that we played well, but manager had a different idea. He loved playing Stevie in that number 10 role with almost like an extra midfield player, because Rafa was kind of a bit more defensive minded, if you like, where Stevie could definitely do that job way better than me going back and defending. But of course I wasn't brought to Liverpool for that. I was brought in my mind as a partnership with Torres. So in terms of that, it was disappointing because I really felt that we could do something really big. But football, as we know,
I mean that's what I was going to ask you, Keno. So you played under managers who were really on the front foot, attacking and really offensive. You talked like Martin Yola, Tottenham, Glenn Hoddle signed you. Obviously David O'Leary at Leeds, but then you signed for Liverpool and you signed for Rafa. Did he stifle your game? Because obviously you just mentioned there about Stephen playing obviously as that number 10 and running forward. What was your role? What did he give you?
I remember the first game we played away. I think we went in, was it Denmark? I think we went on pre-season, and I played left wing in the first game, and I was like, oh, here we go. I'm definitely not a left winger.
Did you have a bad feeling about it then, though?
I just thought it was a bit strange playing left wing the first game. That's like in a pre-season game, which I've never played left. Yes, I would drift that way a little bit by playing as a striker. Of course, naturally people drift in different areas, but I never played as a left winger. And then a lot of the times I played as a lone striker when Torres was injured, and I don't think that's really me either, to be honest with you, because I'm not the quickest in terms of Torres was lightning quick. Over 10, 15 yards, I'll be as sharp as anybody. But anything after that, it wasn't my game. So I never really had a proper run in terms of playing 10 to 15 games with me and Torres to see what it was like. And as I said, I think he loves Stevie playing that. Like, don't get me wrong, Stevie and him and Torres were absolutely incredible playing together. And I don't certainly have a problem that I wouldn't expect to be, playing in a number 10 role and midfield role instead of Stephen Gerrard. He was unbelievable at that. I just played a little bit higher up the field, and Rafa didn't. I don't think Rafa, liked that. He wanted that protection always with Xavi, Mascherano and Stevie, almost three strong midfield players, if you like, So that was his own preference. I don't hold grudges against him. That's life. I'm not one of these guys that looks back and go, "Oh, I wish that. Would I like to stay longer?" Absolutely. Did I think we might have a chance to win something? Yeah, I think we finished. It was a second that year. Yeah. I obviously left in the window, so it was definitely it was short, and of course I wanted, because you never sign for a club, expecting to stay there for that short amount of time. But I certainly don't regret it.
I think when you obviously look at your Liverpool career, and it took you a while to get going, but then I think your first goal in the league certainly was West Brom.
Yeah.
Then you waited till December. You scored against Arsenal away.
Yeah.
2 against Bolton. Yeah. And then a month later you sold, and you
I felt like I was getting going, it takes time, and also adapting to a different style of play,
what happened in that month though? Because obviously I'm saying you've scored 3 goals, and then within 5 weeks you've left. So I'm thinking, well, you're ready to.
That's why I can't really answer that one, to be honest with you. That will have to be Rafa. For me, was when I got left there, one of the squads. That set me over the edge, and because if I'm on the bench and I've come on, fair enough. If you want to play with someone else, that's completely fine. But I never got left out of a squad before. That's the first time with Chris. So I found that very, very difficult to really take. So of course, then for me, the writing was on the wall.
You might not remember this, but when you came to Liverpool, one of the things you said was, "I'm not coming here to change as a player." Implicit in that answer almost is that there was a perception that you were going to play a completely different way at Liverpool to the way you played all of your career at different clubs. Is that fair to say? Was he wanting you to play a different way?
Well, kind of, because I as I said, sometimes I played on the left, and I played as a out and out number 9, which I wasn't. Could I play as an out and out 9 with the Liverpool of the last few years? Yeah, I think I could have, because of the pace that they have on the wings, but we didn't have that at the time. Especially you look at kind of like the Firmino, if you like. But at that time, it was a different way of playing. It wasn't like the way Jurgen Klopp plays now. So yeah, it was different ways he wanted the team to play, and a bit more, more defensive minded, because as we know, Rafa, himself, that's the way he played, and he was very successful with that. But it wasn't to be, and as I said, I don't hold any grudges, or I certainly don't regret it, because they have the chance to play for a team like Liverpool, and better than anybody else. It's the biggest club for me in the world, and the fans. I have to say, even when I came back and I scored that goal, we got beat, I think 4-1 or something. I scored, and the stadium gave me a standing ovation. That meant a lot to me, because I think they kind of felt, might kind of hurt a little bit as well. That of course I didn't want it to end up like this, but. As I said, that's football.
I think with Liverpool as well, and as much as you're only here for a short time, and I knew that you grew up a Liverpool fan, but anyone who plays for Liverpool, regardless of where you're from, I mean, people have a real affinity with the club and real affinity with the supporters, and you obviously feel that as well. I know you've just mentioned obviously coming back and playing Legends games and scoring goals. It's still great to be part of this club.
It's great, and I said getting that standing ovation after scoring. For Tottenham, coming back like a couple of months later, or a month later, I don't know what it was. And then when I was here a few months ago, I had to walk past the Kop, and the cheer that they gave me, the clap, for someone who's been here only a short space of time, So
I mean, I'm just going to. I was behind you that day, so it might have been to me that clap.
I thought it was rushing. I thought it was rushing behind me.
I think it's obvious from that though, Rob, isn't it? That I think us as fans, we felt, this gives us a real chance to win the league this year. It was your club growing up. You said before you were pretending to be John Barnes and John Aldridge in the playground and that kind of thing. It's obvious that it hurts even all these years on, that it should have worked a lot better.
I know, it doesn't hurt me, because I'm not one of those guys that sit at home and go, "Oh, I wish this had happened." Yeah. Listen, of course I would 100% would like to stay for years. And definitely have the opportunity to win something. I think Liverpool at that time were definitely knocking on the door. I think we had a real opportunity. And as we know in football now, is that you need a strong squad. You need a lot of depth. Mm-hmm. By letting me go and having maybe 2 strikers at the time, Did that help? If you look at Man United, they had 3 or 4 always. Arsenal were the same. So in that respect, it probably wasn't right decision for the squad, if you like, because I said I haven't seen a squad that wins much with 1 or 2 strikers, and at the time, Fernando he had a few injuries, didn't he? He was in and out. So in that respect, it probably didn't make too much sense, but it is what it is. But there was definitely an opportunity, I think, for Liverpool at that time to do something.
I think you knew he was going to Liverpool before he did.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know this story, but I mean, obviously this was in 2001. I get a phone call, but you never signed for Liverpool until 2008. So in 2001, my phone goes, and it's obviously the answer machine. So obviously picked it up, and it's hello, Robbie, Gary Mack here. Just seeing if you're interested in coming to Liverpool. And I'm thinking, well, it's a bit strange, this, because I'm already at Liverpool. And then I phoned Gary Mack straight away, and he said, I'll just have to come clean. I went, what do you mean? He went, I've been told by the manager to give Robbie Keane a message. So I knew you were to sign for Liverpool years and years before you did.
At some stage, he messed
Honestly,
up there,
Gary McAllister phoned me up asking me if I was interested in coming to Liverpool. It was obviously just before you signed for Leeds. So
yeah.
I know it's been a while.
I don't think Gary must have lost my UK number then.
well, he must have done, because it took him 7 years to get back in touch with you. So, but that was, I mean, I'll never ever forget it. I mean, to be fair, he fronted at Gary Mack, and he went, I have to apologise, I have to come clean. And he couldn't have denied it anyway, could he? I'm thinking, what the bloody hell's he on about here?
That's not a good feeling, is it? When you call him when they're trying to buy another striker.
I know.
If it's a defender, it's all right.
No, but listen, sometimes you know that your days are numbered.
Yeah.
My days were numbered. So if you were to pinpoint one specific moment playing for Liverpool, what would it be?
Oh, definitely that goal against Arsenal, because I don't like Arsenal either, obviously for obvious reasons. I would say that game, and that game stands out as well a little bit for me as well, because we should have won that game, but Rafa wasn't there. He was sick, so he's doing it from home. I scored that goal, and then I think that's one where I got taken off in the last 50 minutes, where they were down to 10 men, and I think the game was 1-1. I think there was an opportunity there for us to go and win that game. So
is that why you played?
Because he wasn't there.
Not a coincidence.
I scored one of the best goals for Liverpool, half volley from 20 yards, and getting ripped off with 10 men.
What about the 7 shirt, Rob? I mean, it was lucky for you throughout your career, but getting the Liverpool 7 shirt.
Because of the history of the club, and someone like Kenny Dalglish, legend of the football club, and for me it was never a problem. Number 7 and number 10 was always my numbers. So, preferably people probably see me as maybe more as a number 10 especially with the Irish team I wore for since I was 17. But to put that jersey on with the history of that jersey and the players that wore it before me, was great.
When you leave the club, are you kind of given an explanation why by Rafa? Do you have an honest conversation, or is that not the way it works?
Not really. Rafa's kind of not that guy, is he? He's definitely not a guy that will sit down with you and have a conversation with you. But I didn't leave on bad terms with him, or if I seen him now, it would be no problem with chatting. Like any managers, we've all had managers that don't play and stuff. When you see them now, it's never a problem. It's football. You can't take it personal. As long as you go somewhere else and just enjoy a football. For me, it was never about. I'm not that kind of person that will sit on the bench and pick my money up and be happy to that, ever. I love training. I love going to training every day. I love playing games. And if I'm not playing, it's very, very difficult to take as any player. So all you want to do is play football, regardless who it's for.
I mean, I've known Kieran for years, and we've never spoke about this, but I'm listening to you now, and it's exactly the same ethos as what I've got. I mean, I left Liverpool because I wasn't playing. As much as you love places and you love clubs, if you're not playing and you've got like that, you train Monday to Friday, and you're not playing every weekend, it kills you as a footballer.
It knocks you, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you've got to, for your own sanity, you've got to go and play elsewhere. And I'm not saying you want to feel part of somewhere else, but it actually killed me not playing, and speaking to you now, is you're exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, I used to when we used to play, and then we'd come to a Friday, and they name the team. It's just like it's the worst feeling in the world, isn't it? As a player, it's hard to get yourself going. Then you're next day you're on the bench and trying to get yourself motivated. to sit on the bench it's very, very difficult. And certainly I think strikers are unique. I think strikers are different because, even in training, you want to score goals, don't you? Yeah. And then it comes to Saturday and you're not playing and you feel like there's an opportunity here for me to, bang a few goals in today. And then you're on the bench and it's difficult to take. I found it difficult to take because I love football so much and I love playing games that it was almost like a waste of a week for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're working towards that game and not getting it.
Yeah, and and as any player, it's difficult to take. But certain managers are very good at including people. I think I would say Sir Alex Ferguson. If you look at him for years and years, always had 4 top strikers. But the way he maintained them and the way he had them there for years and rotated them, he'd always play Yorkie and Cole probably in the final, if you like. But Teddy was always seemed to be happy. Solskjaer always seemed to be happy. So a certain manager has a certain way of kind of getting players to to buy into what they're doing. But I definitely found it, regardless of any club I was at, even when the manager he's resting you for the game. He's telling you he's resting you for the game.
But then you go and do more running and training.
Yeah, and then you rest you for the game. And even though he probably played on a Saturday, if you game on Wednesday, it's still hard to take as a player, because I think as strikers you always feel the opportunity you're going to bang a few goals in.
You always say that, don't you?
Yeah, and it's one of them as well. When you're a forward and you get brought off maybe 10 minutes to go, you think, well, you're getting brought off because you look tired, and you're thinking, well, if I'm tired, what about the defenders? They're tired. And that's when defenders make mistakes, when they're tired.
I used to hate getting taken off the last 50 minutes of games. Yeah. I used to hate it because the amount of goals are scored in the last 15 minutes. As you said, when people, especially defenders, get tired, and also if you're winning the game, if you win the game 2-0, for example, the game opens up in the last 50 minutes because they're kind of going for it. How many chances do you get in the last 50 minutes? So me as a player, when the manager used to take you off 50 minutes, I was like, oh, that's an opportunity not to score a couple of more goals.
Now, we've all obviously read the interviews. When you signed for Liverpool, you supported Liverpool growing up. Then you signed for Celtic. You were a Celtic fan growing up. When you signed for LA, you were an LA fan.
Yeah, I don't know where that one's come from.
Who did you support? You were a big Liverpool fan,
listen,
and obviously it's the Irish.
I can never understand this. In Ireland, you're brought up as in like you're given Celtic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. If you're a Catholic, you're given Celtic. And then you just you always have an English team. That's completely normal. You ask anyone, you'd have loads of Liverpool fans now going to watch Celtic games. Yeah, and coming. So that thing of being a fan and a thing like, I mean, it got legs.
It got all defensive here.
No, it just grew legs. It grew legs
over the years. Yeah,
like way too much. As I said, you grow up as that Celtic. You're actually given Celtic, and then. You pick your team in England.
What a club Celtic was, though. Did you get your mojo back there? Scored a lot of goals on your loan spell?
Yeah, it was great. Honestly, it was a fantastic club. Listen, of course, it's not the Premier League, but just playing in front of them fans it's very hard to describe. Liverpool and Celtic fans are very, very similar in terms of the atmosphere and the noise in the games. And it was really great experience for me. I actually really enjoyed it. I know I was there for a few months, and then I went back to it. I think it was LA then after that. But it was just have the opportunity to play for Celtic was great. Really good people there.
Played with Stevie again at LA Galaxy. Did you have a hand in getting him there?
Yeah,
to LA?
Yeah. I was trying to get everyone there. I was trying to get all my mates to come over.
I never got that phone call.
You were done by then.
I was done by 25. Don't we? That.
Yeah. I had a hand in getting Stevie there. Yeah.
What was that like, being out there, and a completely different way of life, isn't it?
It was incredible, honestly, because I wasn't frightened to go abroad because I'm not from the UK. So when I left Ireland at 15, the UK was never my home. So for me going anywhere else, it didn't bother me. But the reason why I went to LA was because it was Bex, when he came to train was at Tottenham for a few months on the off season. I mean, we became close, and he said, "Would you be interested in going to LA at some stage?" I was like, yeah. But I wasn't thinking. I was thinking maybe in a year's time, 2 years. And then Tottenham started buying 4 or 5 different strikers and stuff like that. I said, this could be an opportunity for me now to go. So Bex rang me, said, listen, the owner wants to sign you, really wants to sign you. Would you be interested? And I said, yeah. Literally 2 days later, it was kind of almost done and dusted. I was over there, and I have to say, one of the great experiences I've ever done. Was there for 5.5 years. Very successful. The team, 3 championships in 5.5 years, and but as I said, just the lifestyle completely different from here. I remember even with the fans, because for them it's a day out now. It's getting really, really passionate, and see all the crowds now. It's full houses in most games. But in England, if you're losing the game, the fans are on your case and battering you. So we played at home, I think, against Seattle, if I remember, and we lost 3-0. And you have to walk behind the goal, and the fan there, and you're like that. Hey Robbie, great job, man, great job. And I'm like that, great job. So I'm arguing with him instead of the other way around. In English, you're like that. You're trying to run off as soon as possible, but just a different way of life. And the lifestyle, as I said, my son was born there. My youngest son Hudson was born there. We absolutely loved it. As a family, we loved it.
You've got a statue there as well, yeah? Have you got a statue?
No. I think there's talk about.
And they haven't done it yet?
No, they'd do Beck's first. I think they just done Donovan, and there was talk about me. Yeah.
Like that'll be all right, wouldn't it? Be nice that humble lad getting a statue.
Where's your statue? Yeah.
I'm still waiting for it. I think they must have lost my number, the club, to be fair.
I'm also fascinated, Rob, about the change from being a player to a coach. You obviously had this great legacy with the Irish national team as well, but going in as an assistant manager, all the changes you'll have seen as a player. How difficult is it making that jump from player to almost the middleman between a manager and the lads?
Yeah, it was fine with me first, because I was with Mick, and Mick is so experienced. He was a different class. Just to learn from him, just the way he is with players and the media. Players absolutely loved him, and obviously I was fortunate enough to play under him, with the World Cup and what have you. And always a manager I liked, respected, because he's honest. He tells you the truth, and as players, that's all you want. And he was the same with the lads when I got involved. So for me it was fairly easy. I was retired then, just to stay involved in the game. Of course, it's every few months, so you don't see the players every day. But just to learn from Mick, and as I said, how he deals with players and stuff like that was very, very good. And then coincided with me, joining Middlesbrough with Woodgate, obviously, which was full time. So listen, it was good, great experience. I love helping young players, certainly. The coaching, and it's something that I'll definitely look for, in the future. Unfortunately, COVID hit everyone, and then 2 years, it kind of did nothing. Now I do, advise it to with your wife and stuff like that. So it keep me in the game, going to a lot of games and doing a lot of Champions League games, and as a technical advisor for that as well. So fairly busy.
What's your long-term plan? What do you want to do now?
I'd definitely love to be a manager at some stage. I'd definitely love to give that a go. I definitely think it will happen at some stage. But you're just picking the right one, isn't it? And getting the right opportunity, because as soon as you go into somewhere, and that's why I wouldn't be frightened to even go abroad or something like that, because I think in England, if you fail after a few months, unfortunately people think that's it and they forget about it, and that could be just circumstances between the owners and what have you, and people that are too quick now to push the button, and instead of giving people the opportunity. And we've seen over the years with certain managers, and how long did it take Klopp to win the league, and what he's gone to achieve. So I think people are too very quick to press that red button. So if the right opportunity came up, whether it be in the MLS or abroad somewhere else, I'd definitely give it a go. How would you want Liverpool fans to remember you, Rob? Just someone who was hard working, that would always give it a go, who wanted to do the best for the team. Definitely wish it was longer. Yeah. But unfortunately, that's football. So, someone that would always give a 120%. Brilliant. Thanks very much. Thanks for spending some time with us. Pleasure. Thanks for having me. Great to see you, mate. Go and get yourself to the karaoke bars now. No, yeah. After the game. Thanks for listening to today's show. If you've enjoyed it, and we certainly hope that you have, you won't have to wait long for our next episode in just 2 weeks' time. Here's a taste of what to expect. The security guard came running to me and was like, Harvey, you're needed in the tunnel right now. I'd done the walk to the penalty. That's when it just went bam. I was like, right, I'm going to score. If you were to break down at the side of a road, flat tyre, who's the first player you ring?
You know what? This is probably, it's going to be a bizarre person. I don't feel like I've felt anything like that in my life.
I think it was over then.
Yeah. I thought, right, well, I'm finished.